What's up, everybody? So today I want to make a video. It's one that's very near and dear to my heart, and that is the misinformation about carnivorous plants. In particularly, I see a ton of interest around what is the most dangerous carnivorous plant. Why do I have a problem with that? Well, today's video I'm going to talk to you about what is the most dangerous carnivorous plant in my opinion, if you're an insect, and we're going to cover the top 5, if you will, just because that's fun to do and I'd like to see what you think. But what I also want to address is carnivorous plants aren't dangerous, not to animals, not to people. And the more that we can do to dispel these false narratives and these false rumors, the more that we'll have people collecting them. As a matter of fact, there are some places in the world where carnivorous plants are eaten as part of a diet. Now, I wouldn't suggest doing that unless that is part of your diet, but that is perfectly acceptable around the world. Also, I'm going to share with you a really cool, fascinating thing about the Venus flytrap that might be quite the opposite of dangerous. In fact, it might be life-saving. All that and more coming your way in just a second. So as usual, we're going to start with the Venus flytraps, and I'm going to talk to you today about why Venus flytraps not only are not dangerous to humans, but actually might be a huge health advocate for human beings. Now, first and foremost, as far as they fall on the danger scale with insects, they are up there. They are very adept to catching insects, both ground dwelling and flying. However, they probably are going to come in at number 5 for me, as far as the most dangerous. And that might seem surprising to you, but wait until you see the others on the list. But before I digress any further, let's talk about why A, they're not dangerous for humans, and then B, why they actually might be a very healthy thing for humans in the future. First and foremost, I get a lot of questions about the cilia. Is the cilia sharp? And it certainly is not. It is very soft. Now, I'm only going to do this for the sake of this video because a lot of people say, does the traps hurt? And if I go like this, if I can get this one to cooperate, there we go. Doesn't hurt at all. Now, you want to be careful closing these traps because it does expend a ton of energy, and they only get to do it about 2 to 3 times. And so I don't like to do it too much, but for the sake of this video, I'll show you. Now let's talk about why there's a huge potential for there being health benefits. Now, there is a compound in the Venus flytraps. Before I even tell you this, don't go and eat Venus flytraps because it can make you very sick. And as a matter of fact, it can impact the liver. But there is a compound, or excuse me, the kidneys, not the liver. There is a compound in Venus flytraps that is being heavily studied for its ability to fight many diseases, including cancer. Now, certainly there is a lot of research left to do, but that is a stark difference to what people think of these plants being dangerous. As a matter of fact, they have the potential to be life-saving. Again, there's a lot of work. Do not start eating these or grinding them. They will make you sick. They have a compound in them, and I know this video is, they're not dangerous to humans. They're not dangerous in the sense of you can be around them, touch them, they're not poisonous. However, if you start ingesting them, it can over time really start messing with your kidneys. Let's move on to the next, what I think is number 4 and the most dangerous of carnivorous plants for insects. All right, for our number 2 spot is something that I don't show as much anymore, but probably should start doing a lot more of, and that is Nepenthes. These are beautiful, completely amazingly evolved predators. They absolutely tend to just awe people at how beautiful they are. But what makes Nepenthes dangerous if you are an insect? Well, this is known as a pitfall trap. And so what will happen is it produces nectar, sometimes on the body of the plant, but also on the rim and the underside of the lid, and sometimes on the top of the lid, and that attracts the prey in. The prey will then start to eat the nectar, where it will become inebriated, and it's hard to see here, but there's striations on these lids, and that helps them lose their footing and fall in. Inside here, on the walls of the pitcher are almost like a wax coating that breaks off and it sticks to the prey, which also prevents them from being able to move around. And then there's downward hairs that doesn't allow them to crawl up the wall. And then lastly, down here at the very bottom is a soup viscous like substance that has excuse me, I totally lost my train of thought. My nose was itching. It has enzymes in it that help break down the prey. The prey is completely dissolved and is absorbed into the walls of the pitcher. Now, what's interesting about these can get quite large. This is actually a Caesar, and this is an itty bitty pitcher, and that is because the conditions aren't right for it right now. And so it is producing these pitchers, but it is asking for help. But these pitchers can get very large, up to a 2-liter size, and they will eat entire vertebrates as large as rats and monkeys. And when I say entire vertebrates, I don't mean just the soft tissue, I mean all of it. And so that places them at number 2. Not only are they a danger to insects, but they are a danger to small mammals, but not humans. So at number 3, we are going to talk about sundews. Now, sundews are extremely dangerous if you're an insect. They aren't dangerous if you're a human. As a matter of fact, there are some cultures that eat them. I myself have tried the mucilage. That really tastes like anything, but probably not something you want to just go and do. But if you are an insect, it in fact is very dangerous. Now, what they do is they produce a dew substance from which they get their name, and that dew substance is called mucilage, and then it is created when the plant receives light through photosynthesis. It converts that to sugars, and that sugar turns into mucilage, which is extremely sticky. Now, it just rained here pretty hard, so as you'll see, these don't have it on there, but when it is early in the morning or when it hasn't rained, they'll be really full of it. Now, this stuff is very tacky if you are an insect and very hard to get away from, and they are very adept at catching tons and tons of bugs. As a matter of fact, we have some right here that I can show you, some bugs that are in the process of trying to escape, but unfortunately they will not be able to. Now, there are some sundews that are even more dangerous, and that would be the bonatas. They hunt in packs, they hunt in groups, and what I mean by that is they produce a ton of offshoots on their leaves, and when they do that, they also cluster together, and so that allows them to catch a ton of prey. Once they get in that, it's very hard to get out. And then you have Nepenthes. I don't know that I have any at the moment in this collection, but the Nepenthes will actually curl over. Actually, here's a tiny one in the weeds here. They'll actually curl around their prey, much like there's others like a Brahmanii, there's a couple others, but very similar to a Venus flytrap in its movement. It's just way slower. But that would be my number 3 pick as the most dangerous, just because of how prolific they are at catching prey. Now let's go to number 2. Believe it or not, number 2 would be Sarracenia. Now, I know this is going to be very high for a lot of people's list, and I'm going to show you why. You can see this Sarracenia here is all blacked out. That is because it is filled to the brim with insects. These things are prolific at catching prey, and sometimes their traps will get so full that they actually fall over. So why are they number 2? Well, I'll get to that in just a moment. There's another very much unassuming plant that takes the top spot, in my opinion. But Sarracenia has a lot going for it. It produces a nectar on the leaves, on the top of the hood, and on the lip here that attracts bugs. The bugs go and they drink that, and this is what's called a pitfall trap. The bug then becomes inebriated and then will fall in. There are digestive enzymes down in the bottom of these traps that slowly break down the prey alive. Pretty awful way to go. They also have downward facing hairs, much like a Nepenthes, that keeps the prey from being able to escape. And if that wasn't insidious enough, they also produce these false windows and light colors. The false windows is to help fool the insect into thinking they can get out by going down, and that's where they fall into the digestive enzymes. And if you see here, see this shadow? We have one that is falling victim to that very thing. So let's take a look inside, and you'll see, if I can get my hand out of the way, a hornet in there that unfortunately is past the point of no return and will be its next meal. Now on top of that, they also, the Leucophylla, have a very white top, and that white top serves for more than just beauty. That white top serves for, when in the moonlight, it will light up almost like a light. And if you ever heard the term moth to a flame, it does just that. It will attract a ton of moths that then fall in here. You will have a copious amount of moths, especially in the fall, to the point where these pitchers just really can't even stand up. And they can even eat invertebrates, or excuse me, vertebrates. I've seen entire lizards go down in there and everything is erased, bone and all. Which brings me to this one, Sarracenia. This one is just coming out of dormancy, so it looks a little ragged right now, but this one is famous for eating fish. So this will be completely full. These will hang, they tend to grow in very high water levels. These will hang in the water, fish go in there, and they are unfortunately subject to prey. Now let's talk about number one, and it might surprise a lot of you, but hear me out, and I think I might be able to convince you. Number one on the list is this ragtag looking bunch of weeds. Now, for those who are used to growing carnivorous plants, you already know what this is, but for those who aren't, maybe this will give you a little clue. That beautiful flower. This is known as a Utricularia. And so why is this number one? Well, it's kind of a lackluster number one if you don't know what's happening. But if you know what's happening, you'll understand why. So their traps are underground, and they are very, very tiny. And this is longifolia, and so it's one of the few that you can actually get a decent look at them. But what they lack for in size, they make up for in viciousness. They have the fastest trapping mechanism of any plant out there, any carnivorous plant out there. They move so quickly, most cameras can't even capture it, and they are so ferocious that they will literally rip their prey in pieces. And so what they do is they push out air so fast and suck in the prey that it literally rips them in half. Now they're going to catch a lot of very tiny microscopic animals, and so you're not going to be able to witness this, unfortunately, unless you have a microscope. But nevertheless, to the insects it's eating, it is very, very dangerous. And there is a ton of variety of Utricularia, some completely aquatic, others epiphytic, and a lot of them, like this longifolia, or terrestrial. People grow them for a number of reasons, but they make great ground cover, and they make a great addition to your collection because they are small and unassuming. The number one reason people grow them, though, however, is for these absolutely gorgeous flowers. Now, this is a freshly transplanted test that I'm doing here, and so all this looks very ragged, but Utricularia, these are all stolons, and it also produces those stolons on the ground from which those traps are part of. And this thing already, it's been in here for probably a week or two, is already moving along and spreading out, and before long, probably the end of the season, this will be completely covered in these stolons. Now, this is longifolia, which means long foliage, and they can get very long, usually not in cultivation, but out in the wild in Brazil, they can get up to 2 feet long on their leaves in low light. I have this growing in high light, and my hope is that I can continue to induce it to flower, because that is what it is all about. Now, certainly this may not be the order that you would put yours in. It is my opinion, and an opinion piece at that, but the part that is not opinion based is just how important these plants are to our world, in that they've been evolving for 200 million years plus. And so it's very important that we protect them and that we conserve them. We can do our part by growing them in collections and caring for them, We can also do our part by not spreading the misinformation, that being that they are dangerous. They are cool, and they have this oddity about them that attracts a lot of people. But it's important that we move past the oddity part of it and appreciate them for what they are. Beautiful, beautiful, evolved works of art that deserve our respect, our love, and our care. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and as always, I'll see you soon.